Hello, and thank you for joining Wisconsin Parkinson Association's Ask the Expert video series. I'm Jeremy Otte, Director of Outreach and Education with Wisconsin Parkinson Association. WPA provides hope, community, support, and resources for people with Parkinson's disease and their loved ones. Today we are talking with Melissa Lydecker from Bridgeway Independent Living Design. We are going to discuss home modifications and how to make your home more accessible. Welcome, Melissa. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Jeremy, for having me. I feel honored that I could be here. We were talking earlier, I love that the WPA has put out these Ask the Expert series. I think it's a neat way just to reach out to people in the community. So thanks for having me.
Well, we're happy to have you, and we've had great feedback on these videos, so we're glad to have you and talk about something that I think, as we're all at home more, it's probably a very important issue to talk about.
Yes.
But before we jump too far into that, you want to give us a little bit about your background and who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking. So I am, by background, I'm a physical therapist, and with BILD, I'm an accessibility consultant. So I graduated from Marquette University with my master in physical therapy degree in 2003, which I can't believe it's been that long. And I started my career in Chicago, and I worked at Schwab Rehab Hospital there. I worked in outpatient neuro and on an inpatient spinal cord unit. So I got to work a lot firsthand with people who had suffered from neurologic injuries or diseases. So I saw a lot of individuals who suffered from a stroke or a brain injury or Parkinson's disease or MS, which is a whole slew of different illnesses. And then I got married and I moved to Wisconsin, and I started working at, now it's Advocate Aurora Sinai Medical Center. And I worked on the inpatient rehab unit there. And at the time, what was really interesting was we had a Parkinson Regional Center of Excellence housed right in the hospital. So I worked really closely daily with the neurologists, they were making medication changes, and I got to work really closely with families and patients who were diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And even during that time, I think in about 2008 or 2009, our team went to Boston, and we got trained in that allied team in training for Parkinson's disease. And so as a team, they showed us all the new technologies and treatment techniques for people diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and a lot of that patient-centered care. And later in my career, in 2015, I was looking for something a little bit different. I've always had a passion for keeping people home, keeping them safe. I've loved interior design, and I had heard about BILD, this company, from a classmate of mine. And so I reached out to BILD, and I've been an accessibility consultant with BILD ever since. And kind of at the same time, I became a Stepping On leader. And Stepping On, if people don't know what that is, it is an evidence-based falls prevention program for people that live at home independently. And they take the 7-week class that talks about all different things, from footwear to medication to safety modifications in your home. They have this 30% reduction in fall. So I've got an opportunity to work with individuals in the community a lot in that way as well. That's a little bit about me.
I appreciate the overview. Let's touch a little bit on BILD, or as I introduced in the beginning, Bridgeway Independent Living Design, what we'll call it BILD going forward. You work for them as a consultant. Can you explain a little bit about what BILD does and what your role as a consultant is?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for asking. So we are an accessible remodeling company, and myself as a PT and accessibility consultant, and our owner, Rob, is also a physical therapist. And so our goal is to really bring that medical eye into modifying homes for people that have limitations in any way. Our team also includes we have a marketing team. We have an interior designer, it's such an asset. I love interior design and making things beautiful. And so Brian really brings that to the table, making modifications beautiful, aesthetically pleasing. We don't want individuals' homes to look institutional. We want them to feel comfortable and safe. So we all as a team work together. We can do anything from as simple as putting a grab bar in your home to do a full room or home renovation or remodel. We can put on additions, and depending on what we're looking to do, sometimes we'll get a call from somebody that just is looking for an option to get up and down stairs. And so we might just do an estimate in that way. You know, what are your options for stairs? But sometimes we'll get a call and people want us to do a full home safety assessment. So come into my house, tell me how I can live here now that I'm in a wheelchair, or I'm using a walker, or I have different equipment. And so we might travel for an appointment like that as a team. So myself as a therapist and Brian as a designer who knows coding and structure, and myself as a therapist who knows disease and prognosis and progression and limitations, and how we might need to modify a room if there's a caregiver involved that needs space to do that. What else am I missing? So we also have a really neat space. There's a showroom here, right? That's part of our office. And so we utilize that space not only for training for therapists and, you know, mostly therapists for school. They'll come here as part of like a lab, and they learn about the different pieces of equipment that are offered to people that have mobility limitations. I also have a lot of clients who don't know a lot about, let's say, ceiling lifts, right? That's something they never had in their home, but might be an option for them. Well, we have this space where they can try out different slings and lifts to know how they work, and touch and feel and try those things out. We offer equipment rentals and purchases. So now people really want to be home, especially with this pandemic and limitations and kind of the outbreak in some of these senior housing and nursing homes. So they might, you know, a middle-aged family might want to bring their older adult parent home, right? And they might need a lift that helps somebody get up to standing or gets them in and out of bed. So we have the option to not only show them a bunch of different options in our showroom, but they can try the equipment out before they think about renting or purchasing, things like that. And then what we've always wanted to do as a company is provide virtual consultation. So we work in throughout the whole state of Wisconsin and even into Illinois. And so we know a lot of the codes and the restrictions that we have in different areas of the state. And we want to be able to bring that to people in other parts of the country. So we kind of use this opportunity where we can't get out and about as much to launch our virtual consultations. So now we have an opportunity to help people that want to know about accessibility and modifying their home in different parts of the country. So that's been a neat opportunity. So my role specifically as a PT and accessibility consultant, I get to be a part of all that training. So if somebody orders a ceiling lift, or they order a sit to stand, or they order a Hoyer lift, right, to physically lift somebody out of bed, I get to do all that training. And that's what I love as a therapist, is being hands-on with people and helping them understand how to use it. So they'll do it safely. They won't be, they'll feel confident enough to use equipment with their loved one. I also help, like I said, with those consultations and estimates. And I get to be a part of building partnerships within our community. So, you know, Jeremy, you and I have met through different networking events, and you know, we have a good relationship with a bunch of different diseased societies and agencies. You know, I just this last week did training with a home care agency. So they had rented a piece of equipment for us, and the staff wasn't sure how to use it. So I met at the home, I taught them how to use the lift so that everybody feels confident and safe using the equipment. So I love that I get to use those skills as a therapist to train and educate people in the community.
You've said a lot of things I want to touch on, Melissa. The first and foremost, you mentioned you have a showroom. Can we touch on where is BILD located?
Yep.
And then showroom hours and maybe how showroom restrictions have changed during the current pandemic?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So we are changing our space a little bit. We're in the process of moving our offices forward, so we have more room in our showroom, but we're located at 9209 West Blue Mound, right in Milwaukee. We are just east of 45, and like just east of the zoo, right on Blue Mound. And my hours are limited, so I work with BILD just a couple days a week. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays from about 9 until 5 are great times to be in the showroom. But in general, our office is open, and other individuals from our staff are available between about 9 and 5 Monday through Friday.
Perfect. And is there a phone number if we want to call you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Our direct number is 262-671-2032.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing you kind of touched on, there's two parts I want to get to. You and Rob are both physical therapists and work with maybe the design team. I have to think that makes you pretty unique in the world, because most of the home modification people I work with aren't physical therapy trained. And you touched a little bit on why that's important, but can you maybe say why that makes you unique and maybe how that benefits the individual you're working with?
Yes, absolutely. So I think that's kind of where Rob came from when he started the company. You know, he saw in working with patients in clinic and then the hospital, they wanted anything changed in their home. All the contractors knew information about the ADA and what those commercial limitations were, but they weren't that familiar with what we could do residentially and didn't know disease and body and just like the needs of our individuals and their caregivers, right? So that's the beauty. That's what makes us so unique, is we have that medical eye. We know how important balance is and strength is for somebody's ability to move, right? It isn't just that I need my toilet to be at a certain height, but I need to have a grab bar at a certain height because I'm 5 feet and I'm not 6 feet, right? It's going to be a very different grab bar position and height based on how tall somebody is. We know to make modifications of their space for, I kind of said this earlier, for a caregiver to stand next and actually be able to help, right? We know much more about how people move, how people might change. You know, and I think that other piece, a contractor might look at an individual and say, okay, right now, this is how they're moving. They're using a walker, and I want to make sure they have this much space in there to get through their doorways or through their hallways. Well, we also know progressive disease, right? So we know that, you know, maybe somebody is using a walker now, but they have a disease that's progressing, and so they're going to need more in the future. So we want to make sure that we have, you know, we have the opportunity to put in a ceiling lift if we need that 6 months down the road or 1 year down the road. So we're able to look at the whole disease prognosis and progression and know how somebody can utilize their space as for their entire life, right?
Well, I think what you just said is really important, because when you're looking at the home, you're thinking about today, but you're also thinking maybe 5, 6, 10 years down the road. And saying, okay, if we make this modification, we still have ability to grow. And I think that's really important when you talk about keeping people independent in their home and staying there as long as humanly possible. Do you find that in your experience that that's what people really appreciate, that they can build on and kind of work into it?
Yeah, I do. And I think, you know, they appreciate that we know information on equipment that isn't, you know, the general public aren't that privy to. I remember even when I started with BILD in 2015, I'd been working as a therapist for 10 years, and I had learned about equipment that I'd never seen before. You know, I'd been working as a therapist for 10 years, and it was totally new to me, and it wasn't new equipment, it was just new to me. So I think we get stuck in this box of what availability is, right? What insurance is going to pay for. And BILD has really opened my eyes to how many different pieces of equipment and ways you can make small changes in your home to have a huge lasting impression on you and making you independent so that you can stay there. And yeah, I think our clients really appreciate that we are thinking beyond just the basics, right?
I think you just said something, you're doing a great job of leading right into my questions, Melissa. You talked about, you know, we can do small modifications to keep them in their home right now. I think most people, when they think of home modifications, they think of like some of the stuff you mentioned. We're going to do a ceiling lift, we're going to do an add-on, we're going to do this. Can you maybe touch on what some of those small modifications are that can really make a huge difference?
Yes, absolutely. So, you know, I always go right to grab bars. I think people have this idea that they think of like the straight steel grab bar that's, you know, however many inches long, but there's so many different types of grab bars that are available. There's a lot of different finishes if you want it to match, you know, something, and you know, the look in your bathroom. What I love, they make a vinyl coated grab bar, so it's warm to the touch, it's not slippery. You can change out the colors to have it match your bathroom. You know, they make these vertical poles that you can attach into the flooring, or they're pressure mounted, so you don't even have to drill necessarily into the ceiling or the floor. They can be removed when you don't need them. And one of my favorites is a vertical pole that has a horizontal bar attached to it. And that bar will rotate every 45 degrees and lock into place. And so you can put that between your shower and your toilet and be able to use that bar in more than one position to help you, right? And that's really low cost. You're not having to completely modify, gut your shower, your your bathroom to take out the tub, turn it into a roll-in shower. You're adding a couple grab bars. Another option is to add just like a fold-down seat, so it makes it a little bit simpler in the bathroom. What I've seen a little bit more often now is a lot of our older adults or people with neurologic diseases, they start to lose their fine motor ability. So wiping, toileting, those things are more difficult. And so we've actually put in a lot of bidet seats. So, freestanding bidets can be really expensive, but attaching a bidet seat just to an existing toilet, something that can be really low cost. I had a family I went to do an estimate for, and they wanted a stair lift. And through our talking and conversation, they had one railing on the stairwell up to the bedroom. And we just eventually came to adding a second railing. Having dual support like that, having at one hand, a support on the right and left, was all that woman needed to help with the weakness she had in her legs. So just sometimes adding, supports like that, walking in from the garage or in from outside or going upstairs. What else was I thinking? I think ramps are something that I think everybody thinks are going to eventually be really expensive, and they can be. You can make a ramp grade and concrete all the way up to your house, but there are some really very cost-effective portable ramps and even modular systems that can make a big difference. And I think too, we get used to seeing some of these floor lifts, those sit-to-stands that are commercial grade, like they're meant to be used in multiple people in the hospital, but there's a lot of brands coming out now that are used, or the goal is to be used residentially. So they're smaller footprint, and they're built to be only used with one user, and so they're much more cost effective. So those are just some simple things that I'm thinking of right away.
And I think those are really important, because when you think of, again, most people are thinking big picture, big ticket items. Grab bars are so important, and I think talking as you discussed some of it, having an expert come in and just I'm sure the lady, when you put in 2 grab bars and that helped everything out, she was probably picturing a much bigger modification, as was the family, and then she walked away going, wow, that's really easy and inexpensive for us to do.
Yeah.
So the other thing you've said, and you've said it once or twice now, that I want to go back and maybe just touch on, you've talked about integrating the modifications into the home, making it part of the design, matching the colors. That's unique. I don't hear that very often when I talk to home modification companies. Can you talk about how, I think you said Brian was his name, how he works with the family to make sure that you really are integrating it so it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb, it just becomes part of the atmosphere?
Yes. Well, that's one of my favorite. I just love having Brian as a member of our team, because he's very familiar with accessibility and what people's needs are, and he knows finishes and beauty and aesthetics. So there are so many brands that have incorporated, accessibility modifications and accessibility equipment that have, brushed nickel finishes or oil rubbed bronze finishes. Just last week he put in, or he completed, I should say, a bathroom for a gentleman with ALS, and it's gorgeous. It is a bathroom that I would want in my own home, and it's rolling. It's perfect for this gentleman, but that's not what your eye goes to. It doesn't look institutional. It doesn't look like somebody handicapped lived there. It just looks like somebody that has beautiful taste in tile, and it happens to be accessible because as you talked about, we can change the finishes so they match the tile that you pick. So it matches, the finishes that you have by the sink and by the toilet. And there's just been a great change in what accessible modifications look like. The brands have really gotten on board having equipment that's accessible but has these beautiful finishes.
And they're making it more functional. It's working within the home, it's working for the individual. I think those are all good. And I think the other, I've seen the the floor to ceiling railing that you've talked about, that
Yes.
it's something that you have company over, you can take down and move. It's not
Yep.
part of the living room. It's not permanent always. So I think those are all really good things.
Yes. Yep.
We've talked a lot about, the variety of modifications, a lot of things that you've seen and done. If somebody contacts you to come in to do an assessment, how do they do that? And then what should they expect? And then what's the follow-up once the assessment is done?
Sure. Well, they just need to call us. We also, so they either call us and we set up an appointment, we come out, we decide, are we just doing a small estimate, or is this something we need to get a couple of us available for to do more of a home safety assessment and a bigger picture remodel. Or we also have the info at BILD now is an email they can shoot a message out to have somebody come out and check it out. But biggest thing for us is, we set up that appointment, we come out to visit, we decide if one member from our team or a couple members from our team need to be a part of that. Then when we're there, those biggest pieces we're looking at are how is the entrance? Do we need to make modifications to the entrance? Can they access their bedroom? Can they access their bathroom? We'll want to know what the budget is and what somebody's independence level is like, right? What kind of equipment they're using. Do they have a caregiver helping them? We want to know what levels of the home that they have access to or want access to. Do they want to be able to get upstairs? Do they want to be able to get to the basement? So we look at all those different pieces. We make sure that they have doorway widths that they can get into, whatever kind of equipment they're using. Hallways are appropriate for them. Sometimes we're talking about making changes in flooring. I have a woman who rented a sit-to-stand from us, and she had full carpet in her house. And we just talked about pulling up the carpet because it was beautiful wood floor underneath, and it made just pushing her husband around that lift just that much easier, right? We look at all those different pieces, and then we kind of as a team come together and talk about what modifications we think are most important for the family based on what they express as their needs and their priorities. Sometimes they want, what are the things we should do right now, and what are the bigger picture things we might be able to do down the road. So sometimes we're offering both options for individuals, and then it usually takes us about a week to come together and come up with a plan, and then we send an estimate out to family members. And if they're looking for more than a basic estimate, we can do this full home safety assessment with pictures or recommendations. And if Brian is making major modifications, then he has a computerized program where he does design plans and gets that information to them. So depending on the level of modification, if it's simple, more basic modifications, it's a quicker process, obviously. But usually we can, on those simpler jobs, give you an estimate within a week, and then depending on our schedule, we can get the work done. And once we've ordered equipment we might need, we can usually get that more simple projects completed within the first couple weeks. Bigger projects, obviously, like a full bathroom remodel, those projects take months at a time.
One thing you said that I really maybe want to touch on to make sure people get this, in their thought process. These modifications aren't just if you have Parkinson's disease. It can be for older adults. It can be for a number. So not only is that important, but I think the other thing you just said, for the one lady, it was pulling the carpets up, so it was easier for her to push her husband around in a wheelchair. Not only are you doing an assessment on the individual, you're also looking at the care partner and the home environment for everybody. Is that correct? Yes,
absolutely. And I think, every age group suffers from accidents, right? Or certain diseases. We see little kids with cancer. We see car accidents that involve the whole family. So we've done modifications for little kids, teenagers. I have a young adult that was unfortunately in an accident in college and now is confined to her bed in a wheelchair. And so we put a ceiling lift in for her. But she lives with her mom, and her mom's her primary caregiver. So when we met with her mom, the goal is to how can we make modifications that apply to everybody that lives in this space and every caregiver that's involved. We've also had a handful of couples where the woman's you know, 5 feet, and her husband is over 6 feet tall. So we want to make modifications that they can both access regardless of their height and their limitations. So yes, we really want to modify and make changes based on everybody that lives in the home and any caregiver that's a part of just that living space.
When you make modifications, give them the kind of the quote and all that, are home modifications covered by Medicare, Medicaid insurance, or is that usually private pay?
Most often it's private pay. We actually work with a lot of those Medicaid waivers. A lot of the Medicaid waivers have different programs for modifications, like family care and community care. There's the IRIS program. We do work with most disease societies have some money available for modifications. We work a lot with the VA. There are some home modification grants that are options for individuals. And then, of course, there's private pay options. But there are some opportunities for individuals with Medicaid waivers. Medicare, unfortunately, does not cover modification.
What I'm hearing you say is if I come to you, you give us a price quote, it's a little out of my price range, you're probably going to work with me a little bit to say, you know, are you a veteran? Is there a waiver? Is there an organization that might be able to help you pay for this?
Yes, and I think what is impressive about our team is, you know, we're not here to take your money. You know, our job is to find something that works within your budget. That's one of our first questions is, what's your budget? You know, what are you working with? We want to try to stick within that. We want to know, yes, are there other opportunities for funding that we can help, you know, take some of the cost away. But our job is to give you what you need to be safe in your home and to do it in a financially appropriate way, if you will.
I appreciate that. The one other thing I want to touch on, you mentioned you guys have equipment. You can rent equipment, you can purchase equipment. What type of equipment would that be? Are we talking wheelchairs, walkers, more? We talking portable ramps? We talking all of those? What would that equipment be?
So we offer rentals on straight stair lifts, on ramps, and on floor lifts. So I'm talking about floor lifts. We have Hoyer lifts that actually pull somebody up almost like they're in a swing. And then we have manual and electric sit-to-stand. So it's for somebody that's bearing weight through their legs. We have a handful of different floor lifts like that. We have, to trial in our showroom, we also have a ceiling lift with a handful of different slings. We have a couple stair lifts right in our showroom for people to trial out. And then we have a whole wall of grab bars, you know, with different finishes, colors, just for people to get a taste of and see in that space.
Perfect. I've had experience with this, so I want to ask you, if somebody comes and purchases grab bars for you and they're going to install them themselves, what are the tips you're telling them to make sure they do it properly? The horror story I have is about 15 years ago, I worked with somebody and the son put them in and he grabbed them and yanked them right out of the wall. And the mom's like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't need them. So what are the things maybe you're telling people before they install them themselves?
Well, we always encourage them to be installed by our company or another contractor that has some familiarity. And if it is a local handyman or somebody they're familiar with, making sure it's just, there's a support system that it's being attached to. You know, there is one brand that you can attach a grab bar into like a fiberglass surround, but pretty much those systems don't allow, there's no support behind that fiberglass, right? So the biggest piece is just to make sure that it's built into a support wall and there's something backing or something behind it, and it's not just put right into the wall and there's no stud. You know, we did some work for a work comp recently. That's another big funding source. And this woman had fold down grab bars, you know, so that's another option. You can't just put a straight grab bar on a wall. They have grab bars that fold down from the wall or even come up from the floor for more support. And she had pulled this fold down grab bar out of the wall 3 times, I think. And when we went in to look at that system and how it's set up in the bathroom, just pushing weight through the grab bar, you could see the wall, you know, kind of bowing out. So you could tell it was just not in any type of support system. So that's the biggest piece is we want you, if you need support, we want the support to be there and available to you and be sturdy so you're not hurting yourself more in the process of using something that that you need for assistance, correct?
Well, and I think having the experts do it is always the best. But you and I probably could go through horror stories. I've heard great ones where they use a 3-foot ramp on a 10-foot area and stuff like that. So there's a lot of issues, and I'm sure you've seen them all.
Right.
But I think you've covered a lot with the home modifications, really what you guys are looking for, some of the low-cost options as well as the more in-depth costs. I think you've shared your goals to keep people in their homes and independent as long as possible. Is there anything we haven't discussed, Melissa, that you're like, Jeremy, I can't believe you didn't ask me this, and people should know this situation or this service that we offer?
Well, I think the one piece that was new to me when I started with BILD 2 is, we know there are these ADA guidelines, right? But those are all for commercial property, and so that we don't have those same restrictions residentially. So when we're in people's homes, that we have more flexibility with the length of a ramp. It doesn't have to be 1 inch of rise as 12 inches of length, right? So we have more flexibility if people have more limited space. Same thing with grab bars. We can put them wherever you need them. They don't have to be how you see them in a commercial bathroom, right? So some clients come to us and they think that they have to have all their modifications within that guideline. And really, residentially, we have limitations from the city and the county. We have to get permits for certain changes, but we have so much more flexibility to make it a space that's accessible for somebody's individual needs.
And that's why you call the experts, because they know those.
Exactly.
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for your time today and providing a lot of just really good information and overview on making your home more accessible and the modifications people can do. Now, we're glad you are checking in regularly with the Wisconsin Parkinson Association. We are updating our website frequently, as well as our Facebook page, with exercise classes, educational videos such as this one, and a number of other resources to assist you during your Parkinson's journey. You can email us at mail@wiparkinson.org with future topics you'd like to see us cover on this Ask the Expert series. Now, thank you again to Melissa for her time and for being our guest today. Thanks to you for joining us. Please take care, be well, and have a good day.
Thanks again, Jeremy.
Thank you.